and Marvin Winans Jr. Now, I've known you a long time too, Marvin.
You keep giving out all these years.
Yeah.
Years. I'm a young man.
Yeah, when we had hair, man.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Praise God. And you brought your son with you. We're so happy to have Marvin Winans Jr.
Honored to be here.
Yeah. Now, what was it like growing up with Dad being the Marvin Winans?
Oh, the Marvin Winans?
The Marvin Winans.
Or Dad.
Well, you see, because a lot of kids, well, not like, but some kids have to grow up with very well-known fathers, and there are pressures that come with that. And I want you to talk a little bit about that.
I only really saw the one that gave me whippings.
That's the only one you really saw.
I really saw. Beyond that, you know, I know honestly, no, I did. It was I guess it was a double-sided thing, because I was in awe of my father as he would sing J-U-S-U-S and hop across the stage. I would be on the front row at all of the concerts whenever they were in town, obviously, but just you know, in awe, just watching them and you know, picking up the different moves. I guess just, you know, not knowing that later I would be singing myself, and I think sometimes that comes out of me. But I quickly knew that when I went around the back and got to the backstage area, that if I didn't be quiet in a minute, I was the one I was in awe of was gonna make sure that I was quiet. I really just it was a good time. We had a good time. So as a father, watching them on stage and off stage, we had a lot of fun.
You want to say anything to your father?
Oh, well, that I love him. Yeah, of course.
Yes.
He you know, I said I just had a baby shower and for my son.
You're gonna make your father a grandfather.
Yeah, it's a granddad.
Oh, granddad.
Granddad.
All right now. All right now. What's so? Tell me, granddad. I want to talk to granddad. Granddad Winans.
You're coming up with another name.
You're gonna change that.
Yeah, I'm too young to be a granddad.
Do you remember what it was like?
So send your names to www.
Do you remember what it was like when you first saw your first child?
Well, this is it. This is the beginning of my strength. I did something that I've since tried to warn all potential fathers everywhere not to do.
What's that?
Be in the delivery room when your child is born. I know. There's some people that say.
But did you holler? Did you scream?
I didn't scream. I just said, I shouldn't be here. I shouldn't know this. But
too much information.
Yeah, I didn't.
Yeah.
Who knew?
Right,
you know.
Right.
I was like, you know, while Vicky was having, I was like, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You know. But I was the first one to hold him.
Yeah.
And I remember when the doctor had pulled his head out, and then he went and got the little suction thing, and he was like, let's see what he is, and all his nickname is Coconut, and so Coconut was like. That's all he did, and you know, this was before ultrasound, or at least before our
could afford it.
Yeah, before we had the insurance to get it.
Yeah, right.
And so we didn't know, and so the doctor, he was of German descent, and he said, "Let's see what it's going to be." I said, "Oh, doc, that's a boy. The boy that we do boys."
Yes.
And I was right, and I was the first one to hold him, and I just, you know. I remember one time, and I've shared this with him, that I was at home, and he was just a baby, and I went to the crib, and I picked him up, and I was just holding him, you know, and it seems like I felt all of the love in the world come up from my feet. This is the only way I can describe it.
Right.
Come up from my feet, down from my head, into my arms, out of my heart, and I held it.
My God.
And it frightened me.
Wow.
And at that moment I said, oh my God. And I knew in an instant how in-laws became outlaws, you know, because no one can be good enough for this child that you hold. And I felt that, and This was my serious moment.
Yeah, I know.
And you know, really, because you just, so I laid him down, and the Spirit of the Lord spoke to me and said, give him to me now.
Wow.
And that's what I did. I just said, okay, Lord, because this is too much love. Yeah. And I understood God's love for us. Right. And I told him, and I told his brothers, I told Mario and Josiah, but he and Mario, I said, you'll never understand me until you have a child.
Ooh.
Because it's something you cannot fathom.
Yes.
There is an intuition. There's an instinctive protection that happens.
Right.
And you only want the best, and you don't want anything to ever disturb them. You want them to have better than what you had.
Yeah.
And you want to prepare them for that better. And so they didn't understand me growing up. Dad, why can't we do this? Why can't you do that? Why can't we go here? Why can't I can't explain it to you.
Right.
But when you have that child, so on July the 9th or thereabouts,
somewhere
he's gonna call me. And he's gonna say, I understand. You know? And that's gonna be a great moment. My father.
Yeah, and I want to talk to you about your father, because it was my joy to know your father used to sing my songs.
Oh yeah, yes,
he is able.
He's able.
You remember that?
And get happy.
Oh yeah.
As if you didn't sing it. It was like, I made this song.
Oh,
he's able. Jump around and get it. You were smoother. He was.
but your dad was just an amazing man.
He was an amazing man. He came. He's an only child.
Wow. And had how many children?
10. He was the only child. And he came as a child of a teenage mother.
Wow.
That was not married and was impregnated by the pastor's son.
Oh, Jesus.
Back in the 30s. So you know the scandal that went around that, because that was something that didn't happen.
Right.
He was actually denied by his father. And yet he has 10 children.
You know,
7 boys straight. Okay? And, you know, we discovered that all they wanted was 2 kids. But they were determined to have a girl.
A girl. Oh, Lord.
Okay? So just keep trying.
Well, thank God Cece came in there.
Well, Cece came in and life changed, but we won't talk about that. And then they, you know, I guess, I don't know, they just wanted Cece to have playmates, so they had 2 other girls. But Cece ruined the baseball team we were trying for.
Oh.
But the one thing that my father drilled into us was that we were brothers. And if you ever wanted to get him upset, go to arguing and fighting with your brother. So no matter, I mean, he didn't stop the fights. He just didn't know about them.
Okay.
No matter what happened, we had to get it together before Daddy came home. But he drove it in us that we were brothers, and today we're brothers. And you know, we had each other for friends. And then it was our father that made us sing. You know, my mother gathered us together, you know, and she, you know, my great-grandfather was the pastor of our church, and they would have the convocation, and we, the name of our group then was Ella Winans' great-grandchildren. That was the name of our group.
Yeah.
We're going to hear from Ella Winans' great-grandchildren.
Ella Winans' great-grandchildren.
And then we all got up there, and we would sing. And it was the, you know, our family came in shifts, and it was like the big 4. Really, I met Debbie on the road, but y'all was supposed to laugh at that. So anyway, the big four, which was David, Ronald, Carvin, and myself.
Yeah.
And so Mama taught us to sing. My mother played the piano, and she was just so nice about it. We learned our little songs.
Yeah.
And it was like my dad looked over and thought he could play the guitar. And, you know,
was pop staples on you?
Oh, no, he went Sam Cooke on us. Because him and Sam were friends, and he loved quartet, and they did all of that.
Oh, yeah.
And so we became the Winenaires.
Oh, Winenaires.
Yeah.
You're giving us some history here.
Oh, Lord, oh, Lord. We did that.
Okay, yeah.
So,
no. You got to give me a little bit more.
Now, you see how he knew that?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, we had to turn off the TV to sing.
Yeah.
And Daddy would make us and teach us harmony and all of that. And then I started playing the piano. Retired at 12 from singing because it was like, Daddy, I'm not singing no more quartet. I'm done. And started writing, got saved when I was 11 and filled with the Holy Ghost when I was 12 and started writing songs. And it was our father that came home. Because when you have 10 kids, you have 3 jobs at least.
Yeah.
And he was driving a cab, among other things. And
wow.
He started the barbershop, Dave's Barbershop. He was an entrepreneur. He started.
Wow.
He started in 1969. Started a community service called Community Youth Builders, where in the neighborhood that his barbershop was in, he gathered all of those kids.
Yeah.
And started, I don't know how many track teams, baseball teams, softball teams, basketball teams, arts and craft. Just went out and got money and brought it into the neighborhood. He taught me this, as it was, like I said, he came home one day and said he just dropped a fare off at a concert that Howard Lemon, and I know he's in Florida now, Howard Lemon and the Howard Lemon Singers, we're doing a concert at the Macaulay Auditorium there at the University of it was actually Mercy College, which is now part of U of D.
Yes.
And he says, y'all could do a concert. We do a concert. What do? Y'all do a concert. And we just started preparing to do a concert. We didn't know what we were doing, but it was our father. The one thing that I teach at our assembly and share, that a father is never jealous of his son.
Absolutely.
He's never jealous of his children. You always want them to do better.
Yeah.
And dream bigger.
Right.
And you just step back and my father was our biggest cheerleaders. We did our first concert. He never sang on it. He never asked to sing on it. He was on the side. Yeah. And to this day, we've traveled all over the world as a family, and even with the grandchildren, as a Winans concert.
Yeah.
And Daddy and Mama would sing. You go to your dressing room, but Daddy be on the side of the stage. Watching you, cheering you on.
Right.
You know, give it to God. My God, let him do it. Let him do it. I mean, he just and you look there.
That's him. That's your daddy right there.
And you just realize, wow, what a great man.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And
he
so,
was a praying man. I tell you, he came by my house one time. Half hour later, we were still praying. We were praying. He was a praying man.
Oh, he wasn't playing. I mean, we had 6 a.m. prayer and at our church, and he would get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and put on a suit.
My God.
And get to church at 4:30, 5:30, something like that, and just wait. And so one day I went, you know, because he's always Daddy, and the person wasn't there with the key. And so I got there at about 6:05. Why ain't you on time? Don't you know you got to be on time for God? How you going? I mean, that is a little after 6 in the morning. And we would be on the road. He would get up for prayer. Yeah. Nobody wanted to room with Daddy. And so we pass him off to the band, you know. And Fred Hammond talks about it now, how Daddy would get him up for prayer because, you know, had Fred played the bass for us at the time. But we would
do that on his own, I mean, at home.
Oh,
I just remember seeing him get up a couple times, and just put a suit on at the house.
Put a suit on at the house?
At the house in the morning.
And go to pray.
And he said, I guess, you know, because he said he was going before the king.
Yeah. Going before the king.
And that's what he did.
What?
We woke up many a days, you know, sleep, you know, whoa, what's going on? And it's, you know, 1 o'clock in the morning, and Daddy's in there praying over us.
My God.
Anointing us with oil, cover them with your blood. God, cover all these things. And so, and if it's one thing, if it's one thing that is missing, it is men or children seeing their fathers pray, seeing their fathers worship. When people think of church, they always think of women. And that is probably the dominant culture in America. But go to Nigeria, you know, and on the front row, they're men.
Right.
The men outnumber the women. When you get in church, you're in church. But down front, it's all men. And it's a powerful, powerful thing when you see men that praise. And my father was a prayer. He was a prayer warrior, but he was a praiser. He worshiped God and was unashamed of his worship toward God. And that's what we grew up seeing. He didn't do it just at home. He did it in church. He did it in front of everybody he ran into. And everybody. It made no difference who you were. He was going to tell you about Jesus and get happy while he telling you.
You know, we were talking earlier that so many children of godly men go the wrong way. Let me tell you something. I was sitting here as you were talking, and I was thinking to myself, how miraculous that your father, who was not raised by a father, went on to be such an amazing father.
I think,
you know what I mean?
And I think what happened is as I listen.
How does that happen?
As I listen to the brother Pat Nolan talk about, as I often say at my church, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Right.
And nothing brings sensitivity to a situation like your experience. And because of the lack of the participation in his life of his father, when he started having sons, I'm certain that he said, I'm not going to let my sons be deprived of their father. My daddy was in everything we did, you know? Everything significant, he was there.
You know, God gave me a quote once that it is in the quiet crucible of our personal, private sufferings that our noblest dreams are born.
See, he would have to give that to you.
Yes. Yes.
I was, you know, the quiet crucible. When I'm in a crucible, it ain't quiet. I'm making noise.
But it is in the quiet crucible of our personal, private sufferings that our noblest dreams are born and God's greatest gifts are given.
See there?
Often given in compensation for what we've been through. So what your dad went through as a kid, look at what God blessed him with in compensation for what he went through. But wait. But here's what I saw, and this is what the Lord just showed me. Look at how God compensated your father, not just with your life, your ministry, but now your son is preaching.
Isn't that great?
And that goes back to him.
It goes back to him, and it goes back to him not allowing what happened to him to make him bitter toward his father.
Right.
My father and his father had a relationship, and as a matter of fact, when Coke was born, Marvin Winans Jr. was born, about 6-7 months later, I went and found my grandfather. At my great-grandfather's church of the Winan era started, Ella Winans' great-grandchildren. and I said, you have a great-grandson. Tears filled his eyes immediately. And he left the service, got his wife, Grandma Gladys, and we got in the car. And when he came to my home, he knelt by the crib of Coke and began to pray.
My.
And lifted him up and began to tell God to be in his life and to use him. So now, my great-grandfather was a preacher who was born March the 3rd, 1875.
My God.
My grandfather was a preacher who was born in 1901. My father's a preacher who was born in 1934. I'm a preacher, and who cares when I was born? But
It was before me. That's all I need.
You're a mess.
But Marvin Winans Jr. was born 1979. And I already know Marvin Winans III is going to be a preacher.
He's going to be a preacher.
Ain't going to be no pressure. No. He's just going to be a preacher.
Well, I want to prepare you for what it's like.
Tell me what it's like
to be a grandfather.
I'm not holding that whole thing. Gramps. See that? You know, I can't handle that.
Yeah, you got to handle it.
They call me that in junior high school.
Isn't that something?
Yeah, they call me Gramps in junior high school.
Larnell Harris, a good friend.
Yes,
you know?
yes.
He told me, he said, you know, I've always heard something happens when you have grandchildren. He said, but I didn't understand until I had my own. He said, let me explain it to you this way. He said, my baby granddaughter was by the house the other day, and she was fishing behind a credenza for a toy, and she couldn't reach it. And on the credenza, it had my wife's most expensive lamp. He says, so she just picked up the credenza, and the lamp came crashing to the floor. He said, now, if that was one of my children, he said, but you know what I heard myself say? Ooh, look how strong my grandbaby is. So get ready for some strong grandbaby.
I feel it happening now.
You do, right?
Man, something's happening to me.
Yeah. Well,
but I just praise God. I'm very proud of my son. He's a good son.
Praise the Lord.
You know, I love him and I praise God for him.
Well, and yeah, thanks, Dad.
You make me proud too. This is a nice tie in this shirt. You know, I don't have to be worried how he's gonna look when we go out in public. He looks great.
I don't look like a grandpa, but he never let me down.
Oh, wonderful.
Segue.